Life check yourself with Esin Pinrali. Learn this 60-second neuroscience hack to untangle your emotional knots. Ladies, I found a new soul sister, and now you're going to meet her, and I'm super excited. Esin Pinrali is here. She is a holistic psychotherapist and relationship expert specializing in Imago therapy. So we're going to talk about what that is. Brain spotting. I love all these tools, internal family systems, somatic practices, and psychodrama. Is all drama psychodrama?
Yeah, right.
She has an integrative experiential approach. She helps individuals and couples suffering from anxiety, depression, addiction, codependency, trauma, aka life, and relational attachment issues so that they can navigate life's challenges so they can become fully alive, supported, and whole. And also, she just watched her first episodes recently of Love Island. So we love that. She's an amazing personality. I know that already, and you're going to love this conversation. So welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Marni.
I'm super happy you're here. Okay, so there's all these things that you do. But first of all, I want to just ask you about, I think that in the cultural conversation right now, are a lot of people quietly struggling, you know, or struggling on social media, or like having a lot of shame about their struggle. And I think that there's so many external things happening. People don't really know where to go or what to do with it. And I'm just wondering, because of all of the information that is available online, do you think in your practice, like, is it helping people? Is it making it almost worse? Like, what's going on in the mental health space now with all of the experience you have?
I have people coming in self-diagnosed. They're diagnosing themselves. They have this plethora of information from, a lot of wonderful coaches that, it's a little saturated in terms of information input, right? So it's good in the sense that people are identifying with some information, but they're almost taking it on and self-diagnosing, and they're coming to me and they're like, I think I need to do some work. I think I have borderline personality disorder, or I think I am narcissistic, and usually people who are narcissistic don't say that they're narcissistic. So right off the bat, I'm like,
probably not.
Probably not. So I think it's both, right? I think that if some seed is planted in you, that you hear some kind of information that you can relate to, and you take it to somebody, or you go to a coach or a therapist to help you with it, I think it opens up a larger conversation. But there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of oversaturation. So you're hearing so many different things, and then you're labeling yourself. And I think it's not about labeling or identifying, but I think people get solace from, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, I could totally relate to that. So I love that piece, but it's so nuanced. It's not, and when people come to me, I was like, you're not broken, and you're not here to get fixed. You're here to sort of untangle some of the roadblocks that are holding you back. What are you struggling with? And so I think it's a little bit of both. It's helpful, but it's also a lot of misinformation that they're coming to me with, where it's not about me correcting it. It's just about me kind of getting clear about, where'd you hear that from and what makes you feel like it's applicable to you.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, because, the identity piece of this is so interesting, right? Like, people will be like, I am a anxious attachment, and that's why. And we can get so stuck in that. And I think what you said is so powerful. It's almost like a false illusion of control. Yeah. Like, oh, I can name it. And I think for a lot of people, and if you're listening, you're like, oh, I know my flavor of crazy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then that's enough. Right? Like, almost like, oh, this is just what it is. And and now I know that. And that gives you a little hit of like, oh, okay, well, because I know it, I'm okay. Now I'm going to be better. And I think what you're doing with all of the work that you're doing is saying, like, yes, like, it's great to know it. or to guess at it. And also now, what are you going to do with it? Which leads us to I want to talk about the knots.
Yeah.
Because I know you talk a lot about like, we have to untangle these knots so that we can become more whole and more fully expressed who we are. So I'm really curious about these different modalities that you use, like Imago. Am I saying that right? Imago therapy?
Yeah,
Right? And brain spotting, psychodrama. What are all those things, and how are they different, and why are they here now?
Right. So I think some of them have been around for a while. I think what I realized for me is that talk therapy wasn't enough.
Right.
So it's like we're trying to name it to tame it, whatever it is that we're struggling with, you know, this identity crisis, this identification with I'm anxiously attached, I'm avoidantly attached, I am, you know, I'm ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, so that's why I do what I do. And it's like information without integration and without application ends up just being like violence against yourself. Like you identify with it and sort of sit in it, and it's like, well, now you're pathologizing yourself. On some level, it's giving you solace because you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm anxiously attached. That's what anxiously attached people do. So what I realized was there is a time and a place for talk therapy and processing, and that's called top down, which means we're sort of talking it through. I'm being a compassionate, empathic witness where I get to hear your story and I get to see and hear and witness and validate your story. But then what happens is there's certain things that we don't have access through just talking about it. So it got me interested in other modalities that are more like, they bring the body into the conversation. They bring the subconscious into the conversation. Because really only about 3 to 6% of what we know of why we do is conscious. The rest is in the subconscious on autopilot. So we're doing these habits.
Huge number, Essin, right? Like, because people will come and they're like, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Or let's talk about like the area of like femininity or being masculine. Right. We're talking about dating. Like, well, I go on a date and I wear a dress. I'm very feminine. And what you're saying is like, there's this like 93% of you that can't see actually how your default systems are operating. Did I say that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And so why do we need, for those of you that don't get the whole body thing and didn't read The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah, right. One of my favorite books.
I got to interview him once. Amazing.
He's amazing. I trained with him.
Oh, okay. He's brilliant.
He's brilliant.
Why the body?
Well, if you think about it, you know, there's an energy around a feeling, right? And so when we get triggered or we get activated or we get upset or we get anxious or we get depressed, we feel it in our body. When we get nervous, our heart drops, right? Our pulse, if we pay attention, our pulse will go up. We might sweat depending on how it manifests. So the mind and the body are connected, right? We've known this for years, but like, what does that really mean? Well, that means if the mind and the body are connected, how can we just work with the mind and then not bring the body into the conversation? Because there's energy around memories. There's energy around embedded trauma. There's energy around experiences that you've had or relational wounds that you've had. And so if there's energy around it, then something happens in present day. And all of a sudden I get really anxious or I got activated or it awakens something inside of me. It's, you know, it might be very well what's happening in the here and the now, but a lot of times it's coming from an older memory that's stored in your body that hasn't been processed through to completion. And so there is this sort of like that knot that we're talking about. There's this emotional knot that is being held in the body, and there's energy around that experience, that memory, that embedded trauma. And so we can't talk our way out of it. The nervous system doesn't respond to that kind of language. The nervous system responds to meeting the body with being with the body and like understanding where are you experiencing that. That's why a lot of times people are like, where do you feel that in your body? Right.
Right.
So we can locate where we feel it in your body, and then I could help them be with that emotion. And oftentimes it's an old memory resurfacing, or a younger part of you starts to show up. Like I always say, adults don't usually throw temper tantrums. That's usually a younger part of you that's coming up, or an adaptive child. Terry Real calls it the adaptive child, that is, upset about something that happened, or an unmet need that you didn't get when you were younger. And it's reminding your nervous system, because your nervous system scans and goes, when else have I had this experience before? In a millisecond. That's how brilliant your body is. And it goes, you don't consciously know it, but it goes, oh, this feels exactly like the time I was rejected by my dad. This feels exactly like the time I was abandoned by my partner. Because it's not just stuff that happens in your formative years. It's also stuff that happens in your adult years. People are always focused on, womb, implicit memory, which is from the womb till when you can talk. And then explicit memory comes online when you're verbal. So it's a culmination of all of that. You can't just limit it to when you were younger. You get betrayed or hurt or, wounded in adulthood, in teenage years, in all those type of experiences. And so it gets stored and stuck. And then it's playing on subconscious autopilot. I'm going to get left again. I'm going to get left again, or I'm going to get abandoned.
And so what I hear you saying is, so each one of those traumas with various sizes of T, right? Big ones, T. Medium, little T's, right? They all are creating these knots. And to just reference back to what we were talking about before. So like what happens is if you go, oh, that makes sense. My dad was an alcoholic. I understand why I feel like I'm going to be abandoned, or why I attract unavailable men. Mm-hmm. Okay. The actual knot in your body has not been processed, you said, to completion.
Through to completion.
So it doesn't matter how many affirmations you say or how much times you go to yoga. Nope. Your body has not actually addressed that knot. So can you explain to our listeners what you mean by it's got to be processed to completion, and what would that look like? Like, what does that mean, and how do you know you're processed to completion?
And that's the thing, right? So if you feel lighter, I often get reports that they feel lighter, they feel freer, they feel like they're making different choices. So brain spotting is a trauma modality. And what it is it's natural flow EMDR. If anyone, I don't know if you've ever heard of EMDR.
Well, I've heard of it, but explain it to our listeners who might not. I love EMDR. Yeah,
EMDR is just it's called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And what it is it uses eye movement, bilateral movement, so that you can reprocess old memories and then they don't have a charge any longer. So basically through processing and bringing it up, you process it with a therapist through titration, which means slowly and safely. And we sort of talk about it, but it's a little bit protocol oriented, and brain spotting allows sort of access to the subconscious, which is the subcortical part of your brain. And so we get access to the stuff that comes out of people's mouths never came out in talk therapy because it got to the knot. Because of the music, there's bilateral music, there's eye movement. And so it's sort of a focus, mindfulness, internal journey that I am holding space for somebody and I'm with them. And then I become this compassionate, empathic witness. And I can tell by the eye movements and everything when they're supportively processing. And so I use sentence stems, which is just see where that goes. See what comes up and out of that. Don't force it, just allow it. And it accesses the subconscious through the bilateral music, through the bilateral eye movement. So it gives you access to different parts of your brain. And I guess the easiest simplistic way that I could explain it is if, Marni, I asked you to tell me what's the last positive memory that you have that you could recall to me where you're like, I had a really good time, or I had a really good experience with, I had a great lunch, or anything like that. So if I asked you to recall that to me, can I ask you to recall that to me right now?
This morning I went for a run and I was so happy when it was over.
Yeah. So
I was proud.
You looked up to your left. You looked up to your left to access that memory.
Okay, great.
So
what does that mean?
means that where you look determines what you have access to, and where you look determines how you retrieve memories. So that's why the eye movement matters.
Love that. Because I always think when someone's thinking about something, they look up and I'm like, are you asking the divine? Right? Because people will look up to think, right? So all of that is connected to how your brain is processing information.
And retrieving memories and having access to memories. So what ends up happening is stuff that's not, so that was in long-term storage for you. Very easy for you to recall. You looked up to your left, you retrieved the memory, you shared it with me. Some are not that easy. You're not going to be able to tell me at 4 years old, my dad slapped me across the face and I felt really unsafe in that moment. And and so when I am doing the brain spotting, stuff like that comes up.
Right.
Like an old memory surfaces or an old feeling surfaces, because when you have a traumatic event, it's called memory reconsolidation. It's not sort of composited and deposited into long-term memory. It's sort of stuck in this filing cabinet back here in the subcortical. And so my goal is to help untangle that filing cabinet that's messy, and let's get out some of those that are still holding the charge that's affecting the choices that you make today.
Yeah, right. Because because I will ask people, you're just reminding me, like I'll ask people about like, oh, when's the first time that you remember that happening? And they'll be like, I don't really know. But then they start telling a story about it. And then they go, actually, also when I was 7.
And then it comes up, right? So it's kind of like we walk with them. And for one time in their life, hopefully, somebody is witnessing and they're inviting us into their world. And now I become this compassionate, empathic witness, and they're not alone. And so there's an undoing of aloneness in having that experience. And there's a release that happens. And so all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that happened. And I'm like, but you're safe now. You're not that child anymore. But that makes so much sense that your body was holding on to that memory. And every time something that reminded you of that experience showed up in your life, you reacted like that to it.
Yeah. And you said the adaptive child. I love that term that you use, because that's what happened, right? Like your child, that part of you had to adapt and survive and cope. And it becomes this embedded coping mechanism.
Yeah. And then you think it's a personality trait, but really it's an adaptive strategy that you had to cope with in order to survive, because you will always choose survival and belonging and approval from people who are caring for you over authenticity. So you will always watch your parents or caregivers. Do they like what I'm doing? Do they not like what I'm doing? Are they accepting me? Are they not? And then you change your behavior accordingly to adapt.
Amazing. I love that. So let me ask you this. So everyone's talking about nervous system now, right? And nervous system regulation. And I feel like everyone is saying they're anxious or have anxiety. So I mean, I think all humans are anxious about certain things.
Absolutely.
What's the difference? Now we're going to be part of those people and help them.
Yes.
Possibly in self-diagnose incorrectly. However, I will ask anyway. How do you know, like, oh, I have anxiety, or you're just having normal feelings of anxiousness just as being a human?
Being a human. We're all going to experience anxiety, loss, disappointment, feeling depressed to a certain degree. But when it's like 6 months or more and it's pervasive and it's consistent and it's disrupting your life and it is sort of robbing you of doing daily activities, or it's holding you back from, living your best life. What is your best life, right? Our best life is becoming the best version of ourselves, but that doesn't mean you're never going to get triggered. That doesn't mean you're never going to get activated. So your nervous system is always in a blended state, which means you never stay in one nervous system state. So everybody, when you talk about nervous system regulation, it's really like, what I studied is polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, and Deb Dana as a clinician interpreted it. And one of the books that I love is called Anchored. And it really teaches you how to befriend your nervous system, because what happens is you feel something in your body and it shoots up into your brain and you have to create a story because we're meaning makers. So all of a sudden I got anxious about something. It must mean, boom, it shoots up into my brain. Now I got to create a story about it because we're meaning makers. We're storytellers. But the thing is that you're going to move between different nervous system states. And so sympathetic is what we all know as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? And so you can have that in response to an event that's appropriate. You know, maybe you're doing a public speaking gig and all of a sudden you get really anxious about it. Kind of normal, right?
Right. Totally.
It's when it feels disproportionate to the context of what's actually going on. And it's happening repetitively over and over and over again. And then you're making choices. The best way I could describe it is it becomes like a thorn in your arm. And this was like one of my favorite authors, Michael Singer, in Untethered Soul talks about that. Oh, yeah. So he says you can live your life making sure nothing hits that thorn. And so you make your world smaller, right? So you avoid this because it triggers you and makes you anxious. You avoid that, or you work on slowly pulling the thorn out, right? So it's that anxiety around, you know, are you anxiously wired? Do you tend to, all that means is that you live more in the sympathetic part of your nervous system.
Okay.
That's all it means, right? And so our goal is always ventral. And ventral means the more regulated, calmer. It's not this Zen state. Everybody always thinks I'm supposed to be like totally Zen. Nobody's ever really Zen 24/7.
Right.
So,
and let's all just like, let's focus on that for a minute, because I think that people feel like if they do something right, or they would fix this thing, or they meet the right guy, or they lose the weight, or whatever it is, that then they will be, you know, like they will be in the Zen all the time. And that's just crap. That's not true.
It's not true, because wherever you go, there you are, and you're going with yourself. And what's going to happen is it's called arrival fallacy. You're going to arrive at that location and then destination, and you want that person, that lover or that partner or that thing, because you think it's going to make you feel something. You think it's going to give you emotional security, or you think it's going to give you peace. If I just get that, then I'll be okay. And
Right.
It's like you won't, because you're still you. And if you haven't worked on the internal transformation, then you'll just have another mountain to climb in your mind. It's like a barnacle looking for a host. It will then transfer. It will transfer to something else.
Right. It's like the whack-a-mole.
Oh my God, that's the exact example I always use. Whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You push one down, another one pops
Yeah.
up. And I can guarantee you. So if you keep searching for things externally, right, as opposed to going in and being like, I need an internal shift here. So if I work with my nervous system, how do I become more ventral? That's always the goal, is how do I live more in the ventral state? Ventral means you're flexible, you're adaptable, you're spontaneous, you're playful, you can respond to challenges that are thrown at you, you're more regulated, you're more calmer. And so it doesn't mean this Zen state, and you're never going to stay in it. But the goal, if you want more ventral, is to do more parasympathetic activities. What does that mean? It means things that calm your nervous system down, that are soothing to your nervous system, whether that's yoga, walking in nature, and nature co-regulates you, and co-regulation is just, you know, an outside source that makes you feel like everything's going to be okay. Another nervous system that's in your presence that relaxes you. So a person, an animal, nature, parasympathetic activities, also cold plunge. But if cold plunge is going to stress you out, then we don't do it.
Right.
Right. You know, so I'm a cold plunger. For me, I've done it for years. And so for me, it ends up being a parasympathetic activity. And so because it does overall relax my nervous system, it slows it down. My dopamine goes up by 350%. My norepinephrine goes up. And that's just nerd speak for saying the good chemicals are shooting into my brain. And then they're creating more contentment, joy, regulation for me. But if it's going to stress you out too much, then your cortisol is going to go up and your adrenaline's going to go up. And then you're going to end up in sympathetic, but you're well-intentioned. So you have to honor what works for you. Heat might be better. A sauna might be better for somebody,
right.
you know, and if that's calming for you, a run, a jog, listening to calming music, journaling, meditating. Some people it doesn't work for. I always say it's like not a one size fits all approach.
Right. I think that's a huge thing to underscore, right? Because we are unique beings. I remember I had a client once who was like, I'm trying to do 5 a.m. yoga with Adrian or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? She's like, I'm not a morning person. Like, it's literally killing me. And I was like,
yeah,
why are you doing it? She's like, well, that's what the books say. Like, you know, the 5 a.m. club, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
She was like dying. Like, it was so not her cup of tea, right? That's not her natural biorhythm.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing. Like when you are just throwing yourself in the solution du jour, because you're seeing it on Instagram or whatever, it's really important to understand. It doesn't mean like you're bad or you can't do it just because you pick something that's not aligned or doesn't feel comfortable for you.
Yeah, it's this, you know, there's these 17, you know, I do 17 steps in the morning to get regulated. You know, I'm rebounding and then I'm dry brushing and then I'm moving over into yoga. And, you know, and I could relate to your client. I'm not a morning person either. I've tried for years to be a morning person. I, you know, come alive a little bit later. And so I honor the rhythms of my body. I work with my body. And so I think like it's not a one size fits all. Just because 5 a.m. Club said that, or 4-hour work week said this, or Atomic Habits said this, or whatever. It's very well intentioned, but you are a unique individual. And so you need to try things on for size and see if it works for you. And then you can add it into what I call the resource installation toolkit. So you create this resource installation toolkit for you that is unique to you. So if
love that.
I have clients, like I'm like, listen, if cold plunge, you tried it twice, it's out. It's not in your resource installation toolkit. Bilateral music, you listen to it, it helped you, let's add it in. So I'm always tweaking with people collaboratively. I'm like, let's take that out. That's not working for you. I don't care if it's evidence-based. I don't care if it worked for whatever, this person or that person. You're unique and I want to work with your body.
And the point is to find something that allows you to resource internally.
Yes.
Because otherwise what we're doing is we're scrolling on the phone, we're drinking extra wine, we're, you know, over exercising.
There's totally over.
Right?
Yeah.
We're doing all these things because we're not able to create that connection internally. So if someone's creating this process for themselves, what can they expect? How will they know that they are doing this internal resourcing process and that it might be working? Like, how long do you try before you give up and go like, that's not for me?
I usually make them try things 3 times.
Okay.
So that's kind of a barometer for me. You know, I'm like, I don't want you to keep forcing something that's actually creating stress for you, because then your cortisol's going up, then your adrenaline's going up, you know, and then what we're trying to do is we are trying to bring your cortisol and adrenaline down. Because if you're living in the sympathetic part of your nervous system, which is just the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is this sort of like, I can't get things done quick enough, I'm overstimulated, I'm go, 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 do, you know, I'm not putting the vagal brake on. And the vagal brake is part of the accessing ventral, right? Which is the more calmer, more regulated nervous system state. Then I have people say, you know, that doesn't work. I tried it 3 times. My cortisol went up, my adrenaline went up. Listen, some things are going to be hard, but because they're just hard and you're trying to do something new. And there's a certain level of discomfort that comes with trying to do something new, because your nervous system always wants familiar. And I always say this, your body and your mind will choose a familiar heaven over an unfamiliar, it will choose an familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven any day of the week. You know, I mean, but 3 times we try it. Did it create some relaxation for you? Did you feel some relief? Did you feel like it got you outside of yourself a little bit? Did you feel more connected? did you feel, and I'll give them sort of prompts. And on my website, I have this thing called it's a free guide. It's becoming more aware of self.
Love
and
that.
So
Go get
can,
that.
Yeah. Everyone. And so it just is, you print it out, and it's kind of like pulling the curtain back on your own mind, subconscious, body, and gaining access to that. And so I think the barometer is we try something at least 3 times. If it's increasing your stress, it's out. I don't care if it's evidence-based. I don't care if it works for a million other people. It's not for you.
I'm so glad, it's so funny. I never really thought about it this way, but I had someone do like a breath work thing with me. And the whole time I was like, I literally hate this. Like, why can't, like, it's supposed to be amazing. And all I could think of is like, I literally can't breathe and I'm so thirsty. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it was like
that's so good. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to make this happen.
So then I went to a class, right? And I like did the whole thing and I know I got to the right state because I guess your fingers are supposed to tingle and stuff like that. And I did it. I was at the end and everyone was like, butterflies and rainbows. That was amazing. I was like, to get it. Like, it didn't work for me. And I think that it's hard when it is the solution du jour. And it can actually, what you said, activate your cortisol and adrenaline, and that little voice inside that says, what's wrong with me? Why don't I like this?
Why am I not getting it? Why am I not getting it? This is supposed to be the thing.
Yes. And so I really want whatever someone is trying to do. I think this is just a great permission slip. What Essin is saying is like, that's fine. There's like 5 million other possibilities for you. Right. And you want to find the support and the feedback and the sounding board to actually have conversations around those things and figure out something, because there is something, right?
Yeah.
That will work for your nervous system. There
is. The more you try, the more you'll be like, okay, this works. It's kind of like me throwing somebody in a dressing room, like we're going shopping together, right? And like we are searching the store, and you want to upgrade your wardrobe, and so I'm like, oh, this might look good on you. Let's try this. We have no idea until I get you into the dressing room and you come out and you show me, and the things we didn't think might have worked for you. Oh my God, that looks amazing. That feels amazing. Okay, so you're probably not gonna end up with the 50 items I gave you or 40 or 30 items I gave you within the dressing room. If you come out with 3 things that you like, that's a win right there.
Totally. I love that. Oh my God, Essin, we have to have you back. This was so great. I think everyone got like such a great education on the reality of nervous system regulation and these knots, and just so much solid advice here. I felt like grounded, solid advice. Definitely go in the show notes and get the guide, Becoming Self-Aware.
So it's on my website. It's on eternalwellnesscounseling.com, and it's on there. So you can just download it for free on there.
I love it. There's a little quote on Essin's website that says, you can't untie a knot until you've found the knot.
And the knot is in the subconscious, and the knot is in your body. And so again, we didn't go over all the things, but there's IFS, internal family systems, brain spotting. That's why I trained in all of them, because it's not a one size fits all. So if you're my client,
I love it.
If you were my client, Marni, and I tried brain spotting and you're like, it's not working, and I'm like, then we're not going to do it. We're going to move to IFS. I have this invisible tool belt around my waist that I can pull out to help you.
I feel like that tool belt is like got a little bling on it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm all about the bling.
I'm like, I feel like it's really feminine and amazing and perfect just for you. I love that, ladies. There again, if you know someone who would benefit from this, like it's such. People always ask me like, what's a nice way to tell them about the work that you're doing and all these amazing people you're interviewing? And I'm like, well, first of all, don't tell them you need therapy or you need coaching. Say, I heard the coolest podcast the other day, and I just really feel like you would have loved it. And then you just share this episode with love so they can find out about the work that Essin is doing in the world. So remember, in all ways and always, it is your responsibility to life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Essin, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Marni.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy, and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibattista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Battista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.